Welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Speedhook. Now I am all about having fishing gear with you when you're in the backcountry. It is probably the best way for me to be able to get a lunch or a dinner off the landscape. Hunting is a great option, trapping is a really good option, but fishing is always going to be my first choice. So lately I've been covering a lot of packable fishing rods, and we're going to start moving into more hand lines and more survival type fishing items. And this Speedhook is probably my #1 way to catch fish off the wild. You can set a limb line, and there's a lot of different things on the market that sets the hook for you, but this is by far the lightest and the simplest. If this is the kind of thing you'd like to see, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment in the comment box, and ring the bell to be notified of my latest videos. You can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Burning River Bushcraft. I also teach outdoor classes at Outdoorcore.com. Here's a good look at the Speedhook. And this is like really top quality here. This is all made in USA. This has been used in survival situations. This is included in military survival kits. I've caught a ton of fish off of these in the past. And what this does, instead of just putting a line out, a baited line, and waiting for the fish to essentially swallow it, this actually sets the hook for you. And it sets the hook at just the slightest bit of pressure. So what this thing does for you is it allows you to passively fish. So you can work on shelter if you're in a survival situation. If you're sport fishing, if you're casting for muskie all day, you could have these things along the bank or off the end of your boat, and you can catch enough bluegill to fill the skillet at night. So the Speedhook sets the hook at such a light pull that I hardly ever have my bait stolen with this. So if there's fish in the water, this is going to pull them out. And you see how small this is, and it's really lightweight. And these come in packs 1, 2, 3, and 6. So if you've got room for one, you've probably got room for a little bundle of them in nearly any wilderness survival kit. They're pretty straightforward to set, but there's directions on the back. And then there's a small tool that's included here. And what that tool does is it lightens the amount of force that the fish is going to pull on. You can also increase it. I would not use this tool until you get very, very comfortable with these. These go off with a lot of force, and they go off with just a little bit of tension. So if you think you're going to be fine-tuning this before you've used it a lot, that's a really good way to get a fish hook in your hand. I would reserve that tool until you are nearly an expert with these. So if you're looking to catch dinner on a trip, this is going to be a great option for you. This comes from a factory with a nice barrel swivel, but there's no line on this. So that is something you do have to take into account. Now, any small line is going to work. In the past, I've used bank line. You could use inner strands of paracord. This is a #6 hook and a #6 monofilament line on this. So a heavy line, you don't have to worry about it being seen by the fish because the business end is going to be dangling down and is a light monofilament. If you're looking for it more as a survival kit, they make a fishing and hunting survival kit. And instead of just having the Speedhook, this is all set. This has got line on it as well, and it's got dehydrated bait. The fishing and hunting kit also has a more detailed instruction sheet inside, and it is really good. It has a lot of great information. I'm going to show you some of those in later videos. So here's the Speedhook in its relaxed state. And when you set this, all you do is bring it down. And then we have a small little lever here and a ring. So I'm going to take that lever, put it through that little ring, and ease up. And that's set. So anytime you're using this, the first thing you're going to want to do is bait this. You do not want to have this thing set and then try to bait it as you're holding tension on this spring. That is not a good idea at all. I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to show you what force it takes to set this spring off. So think about that. A half ounce of pressure or a half ounce of bite is going to set that Speedhook off. And that springs with enough force to set the hook in your hand or my hand, I guarantee that. So that is going to catch any fish, any turtle. In a true emergency situation, you could definitely trap some mammals with that as well. I have a couple older Speedhook videos on my channel. I've set these through the ice. You can submerge this entire Speedhook assembly down in freezing cold water and it functions just fine. So I'm going to make a couple real quick sets with these just to show you how easy they are to set and how quickly you can catch fish with these. The easiest and fastest way to set one of these speed hooks is just what I call the dangle method. I've got this one pre-rigged with line, and we are just going to find something going out over the water's edge here and just tie it and dangle the thing in the water. It is that simple. I'm going to just kind of eyeball the depth depending on what looks good to me. If you have good conditions, you're going to spend most of your time hunting for bait and cleaning fish. You're not going to be spending that much time fishing. So we'll just slip a worm on this bait hook. So we're all baited up, so I'm just going to go ahead and set the speed hook. And that quick, that simple. I'm going to go ahead and tie this to that branch and see if I can not fall into the pond doing it. Most of the time, that's always going to be the easiest way to set a speed hook. It only requires the speed hook, a little bit of bait, and some cordage. Now, at this location, I don't really want to fish over where that willow tree is growing. So I've kind of developed a way to set it up on flat ground where they don't really have the overhangs. And this works on river banks. I've used this on a lot of different locations. So what I've got essentially here is a cane pole. I've used branches. You know, I can cut saplings for this. This just happens to be river cane. And then down here at the bottom, I've got this tied with a tripod lash. So that's going to let me cantilever this tip over into the deeper water. Now the next method that I use that requires a little bit of setup but not much is just making a float. So I've got the speed hook already rigged up. I can change the depth just by putting a couple half hitches in this bottle. Now there's a couple different ways I set this. If I have a boat and if they're going to be a contained fish and they're not going to be going up or down a river, I'll just throw this thing out there. But most of the time I'm going to be anchoring this with some type of line. So I can stick any piece of paracord, whatever I happen to have, tie it to this bottle. That way I can reel it back in once I've caught my fish. So I'll just set the speed hook and we'll cast this thing out. Now you got to be a little bit ginger with this, but you can actually cast these speed hooks on a rod and reel. So if you've got kids that aren't quite setting the hook as fast as they should, one of these speed hooks will definitely help them out. So that literally took about 2 minutes. I just flipped the camera and I was getting ready to shoot a short video for TikTok and this already went off. So that's a skillet-sized bass off that speed hook. You saw how quick that works and you see how effective this is. People carry regular fishing hooks in a survival kit, and I do too, but to have something just a little bit longer and it actually sets the hook for you, man, why wouldn't you want this? And while I'm taking the fish off of this speed hook, I've got another one on that bottle set. So I've got one on this willow tree behind me here, and then I've got bottles dancing across the pond already. So if you're not careful, you can catch a lot more fish than you can eat really easily. And if you're catching just lunch on a regular fishing trip or a camping trip, you can just release them. If you're in a longer term emergency survival situation, you can dry them and preserve them. And if it's just a short term situation and you are found by a rescue party, they're going to be happy to see you if you have a fish fry for them when they get to your camp. So another bass on the speed hook. Just look how small this is. This weighs hardly anything. And you can dig worms, get some cordage, and catch fish all day long. If there is fish in the water, the Speedhook is going to get them out of there for you. This is something that is absolutely mandatory. If you have a survival kit, it better have a Speedhook in it. If you like to eat fish and you're fishing for game fish and you're just around a cabin on a lake or you're camping along water, you should have some Speedhooks as well. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.